And just a little note to Nikki. She's not going to win. She's not going to win. But if she did, she would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. And I could tell you 5 reasons why already.
This was actually a fairly good night for Joe Biden. When you look at our voter analysis, only 10% said, I would not vote for Joe Biden if he's the nominee. He won a plurality of voters who said he was too old. He won a majority of voters who are upset about the Gaza war. So the divides in the Democrat Party, and this is a small sample size, but perhaps aren't as stark as one would think. But when you look at the Republican Party, 7 in 10 Nikki Haley voters said, I would not vote for Trump. There was the Des Moines Register poll, 43% said, no, I wouldn't vote for Trump.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
You know, she struck a nerve when the 3 a.m. toilet tweets came pouring in. Trump press secretary and Fox News propagandist Kayleigh McEnany was lambasted as a rhino last night after daring to share an opinion not in line with Saruman while speaking in Mordor itself. She spoke of how the New Hampshire primary didn't shake out the way that Trump's team had said it would. Yes, the goalposts were swiftly taken from, we'll win it by 30, it won't even be close, to a much smaller 7-point margin being perfectly fine.
I felt I should do this because I find in life you can't let people get away with bullshit, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won. And she did the same thing last week, but he was much more angry about it than I was. I said, get up there and you let him.
And how, in fact, it was a stronger showing for the incumbent.
Here's why I say this. This was actually a fairly good night for Joe Biden. When you look at our voter analysis, only 10% said, I would not vote for Joe Biden if he's the nominee. He won a plurality of voters who said he was too old. He won a majority of voters who are upset about the Gaza war. So the divides in the Democrat Party, and this is a small sample size, but perhaps aren't as stark as one would think. But when you look at the Republican Party, 7 in 10 Nikki Haley voters said, I would not vote for Trump. There was the Des Moines Register poll, 43% said, no, I wouldn't vote for Trump. If I'm Trump, I sit back and I exclusively focus on the general election. I take the posture of a presumptive nominee. I focus on number 1, uniting the party, and number 2, winning the independents, which Nikki Haley won 55 to 39%. That's what I would do. Nikki Haley, I mean, the closest margin is 30% in the states ahead. For all intents and purposes, he's the presumptive nominee.
You know, one of the questions that's on my mind is this issue of sort of the quasi-incumbency, right? Because the argument is, if you treat him like an incumbent, he should be around 84%, right? He should have almost all the Republican votes, but he's not. And he's running against people who are giving him a little bit of a run for his money. So, Britt, how do you judge that? How do you figure out whether or not he has enough growth potential to beat Biden?
If you think of him as an incumbent, this showing tonight's weak, right? I mean, he should be doing better. And it's also a sign of weakness that the independents and others who voted in this primary were not welcomed by the Trump campaign and by a lot of his supporters. The idea being, of course, that we wouldn't want to have the kind of a party and a candidate that draws in people from the other party. So there's a sort of insane political logic at work here. But there's weakness there with Trump. There's no doubt about it. Even if he wins, easily and going away, he's got. Look, he lost in 2020. His candidates lost in 2022. I mean, he has a lot of losses on his book.
If you thought this had the Mar-a-Lago walls lathered in ketchup, then you were right. Donnie was not happy. For anyone paying attention to the primary outside of Fox, this wouldn't come as a surprise. I mean, there were countless interviews aired across various networks with Nikki Haley voters openly admitting that if their candidate wasn't chosen to be the nominee, they'd rather vote for Biden.
Have you decided who you're going to support on Tuesday?
We have not. We're some of those irascible independents New Hampshire has through there. So we've been here a long time, been to many primaries, and I always like to gather my information and see where I'm going.
So have you decided who you're going to support on Tuesday?
Yes, I think I have. I think I'm a Nikki supporter.
Are you open to supporting Joe Biden?
I am. I voted for him in the last election. I haven't been pleased with some of his policies.
What have you been most displeased with?
Just the spending and his treatment of the border. I think we've got real problems that he's failing to recognize and do something with. But
he's a much better choice than Trump.
If it were Trump and Biden, which it very well could be, third party, there could be a third party.
It's just not
candidate.
appealing, right? I mean, so yeah, I would
And
definitely.
is it Nikki Haley you'd hope to run on the third party
Not
ticket or someone
necessarily.
else?
Not necessarily. There are other people
Are these
out
people
there.
you wish? You're saying
No, I guess I'm not that enthusiastic.
Well, I voted for Nikki Haley because I was voting against Donald Trump.
And what propelled you to get to this point?
I'm 74 years old. I've lived in a constitutional democracy all my life. I want to remain that way, and I want my grandchildren to grow up in one, not a dictatorship.
And I'm curious, over the last two elections, have you voted Trump in the past? Was it something where you voted for him, you trusted him, and you were disappointed?
Yes, I voted for him in 2016. I am a registered Republican, and I regretted that vote almost immediately, especially on his trip to Europe where he insulted our allies and praised Putin.
And then in 2020, was that enough for you to change your vote to Joe Biden?
Yes, absolutely.
Why did you feel the need to cross party lines?
Because I want the world to be a safe place. I believe in a strong NATO. My father fought in World War II to defeat fascism, and I wanted to remain defeated.
And while the MAGA base has downplayed it as just fake news, the votes themselves proved otherwise, as the margins grew smaller and smaller, showcasing that perhaps the man screaming about how you need to watch out for the debankers.
But we're also going to place strong protections to stop banks and regulators from trying to debank you from your political beliefs, what they do. They want to debank you, and we're going to debank. Think of this. They want to take away your rights. They want to take away your country. The things they're doing, all electric cars, give me a break. If you want an electric car, good. But they don't go far. They're very expensive. They're going to be...
While confusing his #1 GOP competitor with Nancy Pelosi on several occasions.
By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything, deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want. They turned it down. They don't want to talk about that.
That isn't a mix-up. The reality is Nikki Haley...
She wasn't speaker.
Nikki Haley is relying on Democrats, just like Nancy Pelosi, to try to have a desperate showing in New Hampshire.
Wait, but he was talking about January 6th.
President Trump has not lost a step.
I can't tell you how disappointing I feel every time I see her talk.
She's a clown.
Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik.
What a clown. He confuses Barack Obama. He thinks he's running against Barack Obama, Elise, and you know it. And if you say anything otherwise, you're lying through your teeth. He confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi on January the 6th. And if you say anything else, you're lying through your teeth.
Isn't instilling the confidence that he likes to pretend he is. You know, this goes back to the good old saying that your granny would tell you growing up. You know, don't mistake the loudest people in the room for the smartest. Just because the MAGA base likes to yell about how they're turning up in droves, polling shows that the number of registered Republicans admitting that they'll not vote for Trump has grown exponentially.
Can you say that the guy who's beating me and will beat me for the rest of the primary will lose the general election, and then the loser of the Republican primary, Nikki Haley, will win the general election? Because that's her argument, and I don't understand it. Do you?
So here's the case she's making. President Trump, I would go home tonight. I'd go to my victory party. I would celebrate.
Yeah.
I've made history yet again. But then I'd go home and I'd look under the hood. And when you look under the hood of our Fox News voter analysis data, you find that 32% of Republicans say we won't vote for Trump. I've got to unite the party. That's the argument Nikki Haley's making. And number two, I would look, Nikki Haley won independents, according to Fox News voter analysis, 59-33. So I go home if I'm Trump, I celebrate, and then I say, I got to unite this party.
And think about it, since his 2016 win, after that magic dust settled on his first term, how many elections have Republicans won, spearheaded by the MAGA movement?
I got to say it. It's just the truth. Donald Trump's Republican Party Lost in 2017, they lost in 2018, they lost in 2019, they lost in 2020, they lost in 2021. But they got that red wave in 2022 that the media told, oh, no, they didn't. The media was wrong again. They lost in 2022. They've lost in elections in 2023. And my money's on them losing again in 2024.
But he has an uncontrollable narcissism and rage about him when he feels insulted. And it's appealing to the base. They say, we love it. He's a counterpuncher. But you've now lost a general election. You've presided over the loss of the Republican Senate, the Republican House. The abortion that's been on the ballot 7 times. Democrats have swept it.
And their eggs are firmly in the one basket, and a basket case he is. So that's why they'll just double up on the volume to try and drown out the facts. More and more Republicans are turning away from the MAGA agenda.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.